Hey yo, what is going on with the AMP and DTA army? Now, the price of AMP didn't move as much as some of us thought it would yesterday, but like I did say in my previous videos earlier in the week, we have to learn to temper our expectations and our emotions to remain patient. Now, there's a reason why the price of AMP didn't go as far as we thought it would, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's daily analysis. So taking a look at AMP on CoinGecko.com, we can see that we are currently pulling back and we're down 8.4%, which is pretty healthy in my opinion, especially since, over this week, we've gone up over 90%. So an 8% pullback is really healthy because again, we don't want to go up too fast because it's likely that we could possibly see a crash. And that's with any market. Anything that goes parabolic is, bound to come down super hard. And we've seen that time and time again throughout the entire cryptocurrency market. So let's take a look at the amount of holders that we have, right? So again, we're just continuously increasing in the amount of holders that we have. Over the last 24 hours, we've been up 0.713%, currently at the 31,839 mark for our daily holders. Now, I think that, pretty soon we should be expected to see at least, 50,000 holders in the AMP market. And that's primarily because a lot of people are associating cryptocurrency payments with AMP. And that is a great thing, right? AMP is positioning itself to be in a place that's familiar with the masses in terms of what the cryptocurrency is and how it works specifically for payments. So that's what we have going on with etherscan. Taking a look at our charts, looking at the daily really quick, we can see that with yesterday's candles, we did manage to push up to the 0.082 mark. But again, we closed below our resistance zone, right? We have this strong resistance at 0.078. And we've tested it time and time again. This is actually the third day that we've tried to get above it and we failed to do that. So, this is an indicator that, this is some really strong resistance right there. And looking at today's daily candle, we can see that it looks like there's a doji forming, right? And we all know that dojis are indicators that we will be reversing or pulling back. But again, the trend is your friend until the very end. So we know that since we've been trending upwards, that this is just a pullback. And again, this is really healthy in my opinion. Also, you know, it's likely that if this doji does close in the way that it is right now, we could pull all the way back to this fib level that we managed to break above. And that will land us right at the 0.063 level, right? So for anybody that's, looking for a great entry position on the daily for AMP, I think the 0.063 would be a good entry as we continue to pull back. So, I think another thing to really highlight is that, we have dropped off of our buying pressure significantly. So yesterday we had, buying volume up to 151 million. And today we're only at 46 million, right? So that's a little bit more than 100 million dropped in buying volume and trading volume, right? And I think that's largely contributed to like three different things. So one, I think folks either bought AMP and staked it immediately. Two, I think folks could have bought AMP and are possibly still holding it. And three, it's likely that folks bought AMP due to the Binance listing news and then sold to take profits, right? Buying the hype and then selling the news. So I think that that could possibly be three reasons why the buying volume has decreased so much. But nobody's ever right 100%. And it could be something outside of those three reasons. Again, this is just my perspective. So that's what we have going on with the daily. Let's take a look at the 4 hour to see what is going on here. So on the 4 hour, we can see that we got rejected twice at the 0.078 mark, right? But as we get more data on the charts, that allows us to make adjustments to really see what's going on and what kinds of market structures are forming, right? And we had a bull flag here, right? But we got more data and we're able to extend our lines to see that the bull flag is much bigger than we thought it was, right? This is a huge bull flag forming on the 4 hour. And again, we know where our support zone is, right? Our support zone following this market structure is ideally, the bottom line of the bull flag, right? So we got rejected here. And we know on the daily, we said that it was likely that we will come down to the 0.063 mark, right? Now, the 0.063 mark literally places us at the wick of this candle, right? And if we do go lower, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, right? We could come down to the 0.061 mark, or we could, come all the way down to this market structure and hit the 0.058 mark, right? We don't know what could possibly happen. We could break out of this market structure a little bit earlier than expected, or we could come all the way to the bottom of it, right? But it's important to note that this bull flag is huge, and the bigger the market structure and the longer the market structure, then the bigger the move to the upside based on the trend, right? And we know that we've been trending upwards again. So I think it's also important to note that the selling pressure has been consistent over the last day. Actually, yeah, six bars we have here, right? Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, because again, the bulls have had control over amps market the entire week, right? So I think it's only natural for folks to take profits, especially if they got in at the zero point zero 0.04 mark or even lower, right? But for those who are taking profits, it's super early to be doing that, in my personal opinion. This is definitely a long term hold, and the utility of the network hasn't even picked up yet. So, the profits that you're taking right now are very small compared to, the profits that you could be taking a year or two from now. So, that's what we have going on with the 4 hour. And taking a look at the 1 hour, we can pretty much see the same thing. This bull flag is giving us confluence on the 1 hour and the 4 hour. So our intraday charts are really looking good, and it looks like we're trying to hold above this fib extension level right here, right? Now if we don't, then again, it's not a bad thing, right? This pullback coming down to the 0.063 level, or possibly the 0.066, it would not be a bad thing, right? Again, this will be healthy because we did go up over 90% this week. So, a 10% or even a 15% pullback is pretty healthy in my opinion. And what that basically is doing, right, what this pullback is letting us know is that speculators are taking profits and speculators are exiting the market. So that's what we have going on for AMP with our technicals. And I think it's important to note that, AMP isn't the only one dropping in price or, pulling back or, struggling to break above a resistance zone. Bitcoin is going through the same thing, right? So looking at the daily, we can see that, Bitcoin has been struggling to get above this 40K mark, right? We've attempted to break above it not once, but one, two, three, four, 5 times since we've hit our low of the 30K range, right? And we can see it a little bit more in detail on the 4 hour. Now, Bitcoin has been, trending upwards. And again, the trend is your friend until the very end. But, this 40K zone is very strong. And it's likely that, we could possibly pull back all the way to the 37.7K range with Bitcoin. But again, um, there's a reason why, the markets are going down or pulling back today. And shout out to, the Reddit community, because a lot of folks have been asking about this. But you know the futures markets definitely does contribute to this. So I will post a link for barchart.com, which basically gives us a calendar outlining when futures expires, right? And Bitcoin futures expires today, July 30th, right? So that kind of explains why we saw, this massive spike in volume the days before the 30th, right? So normally when we see a huge increase in volume on the charts before the futures expires, that's letting us know that, futures holders are rolling over their contracts into a further expiry date, right? So they don't want to exit their positions. They want to keep them and roll them over, so that way they have more time for their contract to meet the strike price, right? And then you have other traders who are holding futures, who may not necessarily know how to do that, that are selling today, right? So they're either realizing their profits or they're realizing their losses, right? But this typically happens at the end of each month, and occasionally on Fridays in the cryptocurrency market, right? Now, I think it's also important to note that AMP did not do exactly what we thought it would do. And that is primarily contributed to, you know, not only the futures markets, but, also the availability of more liquidity with Binance US. So it's really a two-sided story with that. So one, we have more liquidity for early adapters of AMP and whales to be able to take profits using Binance US. And then on the flip side, we have more liquidity for interested investors to be able to buy AMP from Binance US, right? So there's always two sides to every story, especially in the cryptocurrency market, right? But I think really we just have to keep an eye out to see when Bitcoin will break above this 40K resistance zone. And then also when AMP will break out of the huge bullish flag that is in right here, right? Again, it could come earlier, it could come later. But again, we have to keep an eye out on both of those to really, make that confirmation. And then again, just keeping in mind when the futures contract expire for Bitcoin, because as we all know, Bitcoin is our market leader, and the entire cryptocurrency market tends to follow the direction that Bitcoin goes. So that's all I have for you guys today. Don't forget, if you like this content, to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you want to donate to support the channel, I have my Bitcoin and Ethereum address inside of the video description below. And until tomorrow, DTA is out.